Good morning, everybody. Thank you again for attending the professional development provided to you by the Division of Virgin Islands Cultural Education. My name is Stephanie Shalana Brown, and I serve as the director of the division. So I appreciate you being here today. As you know, we are celebrating Virgin Islands History Month, and this year we are under the theme, We Should All Be Stewards of Virgin Islands Culture and Heritage. We have a number of initiatives, including the digital storytelling of oral history. We know we have a rich oral history, but how do we bring our stories into a digital age? So here with us today is Miss Amanda Sackey of the Virgin Islands Architectural Center for Built Heritage and Crafts. Yesterday, we had Miss Monica Marin with DPNR's Division of Library, Archives, and Museums informing us how we can storytell through art. Today, VIAC is here to inform us of how we can storytell through our cultural spaces. Let me tell you a little bit about Virgin Islands Architecture Center for Built Heritage and Crafts. It's a nonprofit community development organization that is transforming the old barracks property on Hospital Street, which we know is the headquarters of education on St. Croix, into an educational center with a focus on built heritage, historic preservation, architecture, and the building arts of the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean. VIAC recognizes that built heritage of towns in the Virgin Islands of the United States reflect the design and craftsmanship of both African, Danish, Virgin Islands, Caribbean people. The Historic Preservation Educational Center will collaborate with schools in Denmark, Ghana, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean, and the United States to provide education, training, internships, and career pathways that pay tribute to tradition and innovation and anticipate and plan for current and future needs. They also have a storytelling and placekeeping project, which I have had the pleasure to participate in. VIAC received funding from the Community Foundation of the Virgin Islands, and they started a presentation on researching the 275-year-old story of the barracks building. VIAC researchers conducted interviews, went to schools, worked with nearby the old property, and collected stories from persons that had proximity to this space. So I'm here today to inform you that we have the Amanda Sackey. Please give her a warm welcome, as she is one of our educators as well. She's an educator just like us, and she is serving as the operations and finance manager of VIAC at this time. Ms. Sackey, good day to you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. And yes, like you've given a lot of really good background, so I'm not going to need to, which is good. I don't need to talk about some of this on my slides, but you'll be able to see images to support what Shalana has said, which has been so descriptive. It is an honor to be here. And while I'm not in a classroom, and there are definitely, I feel odd, I feel like this imposter of like, I should be doing this, and hello, children. But I am in this role that is still serving a really important purpose, that we are all here, and that's why we're all collaborating together and sharing like the skills that will build community and ensure like sustainable longevity and also empowerment. Monica and Shalana both have worked on this storytelling project longer than I have. So it's kind of ironic that I'm talking about it when they're actually the experts. But I can tell you from my 20 years as an educator, there are wonderful, easy, and accessible technologies that you can use just as like a starting point. And for those of you who attended Miss Marin's, and I did, Justin was also last week. Was it Justin who did also like the art of filming? They probably gave you much more technical and refined ways that, of course, like that's the goal and the pathway. But the Flip Classroom app is accessible to all. It's free. It's compatible to both Microsoft and Google Classrooms, and very, very easy. And I don't like too many steps. And this is something that we can all participate in today as we do a practice exercise. So enough about me, or enough about this. Let me begin. Thank you all. And so I want to say this, when I prepared as I was preparing for this presentation, using a smartphone. So it's pretty amazing, and it's accessible for many, but it's important to, as for under like the umbrella of equity and inclusion, to not make that assumption that everyone has a smartphone. So in thinking about how can we reach as many people in our classroom, my assumption is that most classrooms now have Chromebooks or access to Chromebooks to a certain extent. And, while you might not have a smartphone that's working, you definitely have friends, and you can encourage when you are assigning an assignment that has the lens of like, let's look at the architecture in Frederiksted or in your neighborhood. Like take, a 50-foot radius. Like, do you know are there historic buildings, and how would you be able to tell? When I was preparing for this presentation, I did this with the lens of the historic buildings. And because that was the lens I was looking through, my appreciation, even as this adult who I'm like, yeah, I know tone, but do I really know it? And it's something to be said for anyone at any age. When you bring attention to something and have discussions about it, you provide power. And then it like builds this appreciation, it deepens our respect. And so all of these pictures, I would say 99% of these pictures I took with my phone, and that's me standing, as the sun is setting. And and this is something I would say, if you have, based on equity and inclusion in your classroom, if you have the opportunity to assign students like different ways of capturing built heritage and telling stories using mobile devices, it's very fun to do, as just an add-on. Who am I? Born and raised on St. Croix. I've just returned, and as Shalana explained, I am working now under the capacity of like the person that's organizing education rather than being the immediate teacher in the classroom. And while I love teaching and still miss it, I'm learning a lot about how to structurally build something that will last and support our economy, like the sustainable development of the Virgin Islands that we all love. And that's why we're here and devoted to like preserving and also to empowering all of the aspects that need that support. So that's who I am. I do have a science background, so I see a lot of things through a scientific lens. It is an honor to be here. And as Shalana explained, I don't need to go into any of these details, thank you, but this is the old barracks. And one of the things that it occurred to us during the agricultural fair, when we first had like for me, I had the opportunity to interact with the public. It was interesting to me how many people didn't even remember or see the barracks in their day-to-day passings. And that kind of, to me, is data that speaks to all the more reason why we need to rehabilitate our derelict or crumbling infrastructure, because it becomes invisible and then people forget. And that's like the worst thing, that, to erase a population and culture is unconscionable, and it's happening, whether we realize it or not. And that is all the reason why we're addressing storytelling, why we're rehabilitating our historic structures. And so this is going to be our hub. And, essentially it's going to be this modern campus in the town of Christiansted. Now, of course, at some point I'm going to petition for Frederiksted to also have something along those lines. But, it's the start, and it's this incredible plan that is going to, we are developing RFQs, RFPs, summer programs. You are going to see a lot of activity around us building this trade school for architecture and design and for woodwork, masonry. And this is different in that we are training those who are interested, and definitely geared towards the younger generation right now, but on how to rehabilitate our historic buildings, which are crumbling. And there aren't enough experts to be able to do that. And there's a lot of money and, potential to reinvest into our economy. And so to be able to teach those who are interested in the rehabilitation of, and we'll talk about why these buildings are so incredible, is this win-win model. And it's just very exciting to be a part of. So placekeeping, for those of you who responded, it's the idea of capturing the living and the past history of the people that live in a space and thinking about and then also recording it. So not only, and we do that, orally, it's very common in African, brown cultures to pass on information orally. Like we have the human to human contact. And so it's a very easy platform to begin the process of bringing to light and remembering and to empower who we are as people. And that's what placekeeping is. And we do that through built heritage, which I'm going to explain to you in a minute what built heritage is. But what I have discovered just in my 3 months of working here and things that I've taken for granted is that through the lens of somebody who is a scientist and believes in sustainable development, when you look at the landscape of our buildings in the Virgin Islands, the ones that continue to stand while they are crumbling, they've been here for over 200 years. And keep in mind that we live in one of the most seismically active zones and are in the line of fire for like the most extreme hurricanes. And to have these buildings that come with there's mixed feelings about it, of course, because we've got chattel slavery, a lot of tragedy and drama that come with, thinking about, what does this space feel and bring to me? How do I feel about this building and what the histories of this building, meant for my ancestors? But what's really interesting in my role as a project manager is I've learned tremendously from archaeologists and architects who have brought to light that these buildings were built by our ancestors. And through some of the worst conditions that humans can live through. And not only did they build them with their incredible detailed artistry that came from West African culture. So that those specific traditions came with our enslaved African ancestors, and they were deliberately placed to build these buildings that still stand the test of time, which is, and when we think about climate change and sustainability models, they're the ones that are standing. And so, if we think about it in that light, to honor our ancestors by telling the stories around this building, then just empowers us as a people and also just in teaching us resilience. Like, how do you survive horrible conditions while still, showing on surviving through art and demonstrating that resilience and that craftsmanship. Here we go. And so Karen Thurland was one of the cultural, she's one of the quintessential people who are placekeepers in the Virgin Islands. There are many, but because she's written a number of books, and not just, for trades, but how did the sugar industry affect the ways of Virgin Islanders and the way they lived? What are the neighborhood stories? VIAC honored her in this past year. And so just to kind of give you a sense of you can see Monica and
Why took you just for your thing against this?
This kind of gives you a nice snapshot of what VIAC believes in and the community members involved.
We interviewed and honored Dr. Karen Thurland today because she is a local historian who interviewed many of the people who lived in and grew up in the neighborhoods of St. Croix. She went out into the community. She interviewed people of elder generation, many of whom are no longer with us today. And she put their experiences into these books. She has about 7 or 8 books.
It's good to be honored by your peers, by people in your community. It's good to know that people appreciate the hard work that I've done. And it's an encouragement for me to continue to do.
It's important for people to know who she is, because we hope that her books and her experiences and her narrative will become a part of VIAC, because as a historic preservation center, storytelling is the first step in historic preservation, and she has collected many of the stories that we want to tell. That's why we honored her today, and that's why we interviewed her today, so we could have her knowledge and her experience to pass on to the next generation.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Well, okay. So yeah, that gives like a, this beautiful snapshot. And then you get to see, well, Monica and Shalana are very humble. They play an essential role. Sorry, just pause. They've been instrumental in developing the programs and the storytelling curriculum that VIAC continues to develop. So we have the old barracks. It is over 250 years and has existed and has been the home and hospital and, public space to many different eras. And so what both Monica and Shalana were involved in November were a series of, workshops that I think, they can of course speak more like in depth about this, but the art of capturing stories from elders. And what's really to me fascinating is that many of our long-standing pillars, cultural bearers, went to this school, and it is the first public high school in St. Croix, which also in and of itself to me had no idea. Very fascinating. So we have the storytelling project we have on our website. There are a number of YouTube videos that give you a much better understanding of the projects, the scope of our projects, and where our next steps are in terms of developing our plans. Okay, so we've now arrived to build heritage, and it is a multifaceted definition, not just relating to the bricks and mortar, but also the people. And it's incredibly fascinating when you start unpacking what this encompasses. It's why did somebody choose to live here? And how long did they choose to live here? And where were the roads that took them to other places? Were they able to feed, their families within a certain radius? Did they move from this place? Where did they come from originally? There are a number of ways that you can define built heritage when you start to evaluate the architecture of our landscape. And so we're thinking about our homes, our workplaces, schools, churches, cemeteries. These are all different components that contribute to the stories around our built heritage. And people like Karen Thurland, who are place keepers, use built heritage to capture as much of our dynamic lived experiences as possible. Why is it important? Because to me, Marcus Garvey's best, his long-standing quote of a people without their history is a tree without their roots. Like, you have no foundation to stand on. You are vulnerable for exploitation. When people start to compare or place hierarchy on civilizations that are better or worse, if you don't know who and where and why you came from, where you came from, then it's, your quality of life is definitely, compromised as an individual. It's really, really important in gathering these stories around built heritage to empower your purpose and your identity. And so through the lens of architecture, we tell our built heritage stories. And I'm so glad we're at this point, because I've been talking a lot, and I would like for you to start practicing. So on your own built heritage stories, I'd like for you, if you have like a pencil, or you can even type it on your notes on your laptop, I'd like for you to grab something to write with and jot down. Don't take this too seriously. No one's judging, but we're going to do a practice exercise on developing your built heritage story. And to just remind you of what built heritage is, it's the legacies, it's the stories that come from your place, your neighborhood, the engineers who designed your place, what materials did they use and why? And are those materials standing the test of time. And then, of course, tragedies and triumphs. We live in a time where there's a lot of oppression, and so definitely we do have tragedies, and we also have incredible stories of resilience. I would say Virgin Islanders are some of the most creative and resilient peoples that I know. Here we go. So is everyone, before I begin, does everyone have something to write with? Okay. So we're going to use your childhood home, and this could go in a million directions. And as you've like talked to Monica, it could through art. I mean, there's so many ways you can develop this. And even as like a science teacher, I was looking at one of the walls that are made from coral stone, and I thought, oh my gosh, you could totally do a biodiversity study of this time and place. What are the coral species that existed? And then like they're, because we are, of course, in this massive die-off, but like how incredibly interesting that would be. So this, I mean, while this is definitely focused on humanities, there are so many directions that you can take this in. So your childhood home, and this comes with, you know, it's very, we have to be so, you know, careful about, you know, defining what homes are and not kind of penciling or not like tunneling our children into restrictive identities that don't belong to them. So, you know, like they can answer as many questions as possible. So we'll begin with question number 1. Do you even know how old your home is? I don't know myself, but that's something that some people do know. Question number 2. Who designed your home? Who built your home? Do you know? Did you have input in designing your room? Or was it, you know, was it already there? Did you do add-ons later on? And then I think by default, through a number of hurricanes, we naturally have an understanding of materials. We're pretty well connected to like drywall, cement, poured cement. Do you know what materials your childhood home was built from? And this is where my sustainability, climate resilient lens comes through. How did your home fare through Hugo, Marilyn, Irma? Well, if you're still in that home, Maria. And then let me know if you need, maybe, because I can move on to the next. If you need a little bit more time.
Can we indicate with thumbs up or thumbs down if you need more
Yes.
time?
Thank you, Shalana. I forgot about that fun feature. If you need more time, give me a thumbs up. Okay, excellent. And if it disappears, Shalana, that means you're ready? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for representing for us. Oh, Stephanie, do you need more time, Stephanie?
That's me.
What does this mean? So you got to inform me. I don't know what this means.
Stephanie Nash says she needs more time. Yes.
Needs more time? Okay. Thanks for advocating for yourself. If I were to do this exercise, my story would be so radical. I mean, I could totally challenge anyone who was feeling like, hey, I don't know that I should share how my home was built. I could top it. I can totally top that. I had very a rebellious upbringing in the bush. So I used to make rock houses. Okay. How are we doing? Do we need a little bit more time or should we move on?
I think we should move on.
Okay. All right. All right. Next question. The people. So we talked about the physical materials. Now we're going to talk about the people that make up your heritage of your childhood. And it's always important to define what families are because they are different for everyone, come in all shades, configurations, and sizes. So who lived in your home? And if you went to, like, I mean, for a lot of multi-family, like if you have blended families or, parents in different homes, you can choose. Like if students are feeling torn, you can choose one of the two. It's totally okay. And you can indicate that you had multiple homes that you circulated through, which is also part of the culture, a cultural indication. So who lived in your home? Where did you and your family come from? Is your home a multi-generational home? How long did you live in your childhood home? Maybe you still are there. And if you don't live in your childhood home, why did you leave? Or why did your family leave? So if you still are writing, finish up your thoughts. I'm going to move on in about 30 seconds. And if you don't get to answer all questions, this is okay. Shalana, what I will do, because I didn't do this pre-presentation, it was a long night, but I can share with you a PDF version of this that can be, accessed to anyone who's
That sounds
interested.
awesome.
Yeah, and that's true. It's also recorded, but sometimes it might be easier to just scroll through a document. Okay. And again, we're doing this for the practice of it.
Also, it'd be a great tool for teachers to use in the classroom if they have that PDF file.
Yes. All right, we're going to move on. Okay. Now, I've given a lot of examples and we don't have to get into this one in great detail, but this is an example of one of the prompts in priming your students up to the storytelling aspect. So you've got like physical materials, you've got the members of your family, and now here we want to provide a story. Now, Shalana, Monique also gave me one of your TikTok lessons on how to interview elders, which I've attached as another resource that can be used. So there's many different ways they can go about. And like I said, Shalana and Monica have had a lot of time with this material and have plenty to share that could be added. And maybe we can do like a collaboration with this PDF if it makes sense to put all of like the important resources into one document. But here we have remembering the 5 C's of storytelling. So in telling and I chose not something tragic, but something that's more uplifting and memorable. If you can remember, and it can be a very short story of that relates to your childhood home or at least the neighborhood. Keep in mind that you want to draw from the characters. So be your neighbors, your siblings, your uncles, aunts. Where was this? What's the scene? Is this outdoors? Is it in the ocean right across from where you live? What's the conflict? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem. It could be something that's positive that you attained or you discovered. And then the aha moment. And of course, then the end, which is the lessons learned from this memorable, joyful story. And if, it doesn't necessarily have to be all 5 C's, but it gives at least students some structure for those who need it. And as we, teach the art of storytelling, there are definitely tools that help support effective stories that are captivating. And this is one of the resources that I use when I teach. So you can take it as much as, it works for you.
This could also be turned into a really beautiful visual art piece.
Yeah, Monica, I see them so well connected.
So it could be both.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a digital, like the video that Shalana, or it could be an actual visual piece of art with poetry and words in it, memories.
Totally. Completely. It could be a graphic novel or a mural. Okay. So I want to give us some time to play around with Flip. And again, we're just doing a synopsis here. Of course, this could be a lesson plan that spans a month or a couple of weeks, depending upon your age group and what you want to focus on. So this is Flip. And going through a number of tutorials that to me were effective in giving you a very clear and easy way to create a profile. I have used Flip in the past. It's been a year since I've used Flip and I just created a new profile. It took me 2 minutes. It's very intuitive and user-friendly, but I loved what this video provided in terms of details and ways and directions you can go in topics. There are just endless ways. And then for students, this is like a 2-second video. So I'm going to play this. It's not 2 seconds. It's like 40 seconds. I'm going to play this video for you because in this like practice exercise, you're going to be the students and I'm going to share with you. Now you don't have to do this, but this might be fun for you to try. You're going to download, if you want to, the app on your smartphone, or you could do this on your computer. And this is what you'll do in a second. So I'm going to play the student.
Get started on Flipgrid in 3 easy steps. Step 1, join the discussion. Use the join link or enter the join code that was shared by your educator. Ta-da, you're in. Step 2, record a video with your response to the prompt. Use any of the Flipgrid camera tools and feel free to get creative. Explore, have fun, be yourself. Yeah, even like that. Then step 3, take a selfie and submit your video. That's it. It's that easy to complete an assignment in Flipgrid. Now watch the comments in your classmates' videos come in and the discussions take off. Let's start learning together.
All right. Why
Get
Flip
started
and
on
why is it
Flipgrid.
different from other learning platforms, or are there other learning platforms? I haven't seen others that are as user-friendly. And so the way Flip works is you hold either your smartphone, or you can use your classroom laptop or your personal laptop, and it's done in portrait mode. So it's similar to like a TikTok layout. And you can, as the teacher, decide, you don't want it to be more than 3 minutes. It gets like redundant. So it forces students to be very thoughtful and concise and effective in their 3 or 2 minute pitch for their stories. And then in this class, so you can create per subject matter, invite students based on their classes, and then you can go around and have peer feedback and support. And because I taught middle school for 15 years, I used to have to go through what constructive feedback looks like so that people are getting the intentional support and not having like any like there being underlying messages that middle schoolers are so good at doing. So what you can do, and you don't have to necessarily do this right now, the Flip prompt, which I'll give to you, gives you some of these details. What you would tell your students as an assignment is to practice doing this on paper. And if you really want to develop this, 2 or 3 minute story using the 5 C's or whatever your ELA program supports in storytelling, and then recording. So you get to record it, you can delete it, save it. And what's also really wonderful about Flip is that if students are feeling self-conscious about what they look, they can place emojis or filters over them. So it's not necessarily like them being featured. And then when I have them provide feedback, I usually, depending upon what the amount of students, like whatever your classroom size is, if it might be even or uneven, you just say like, no one can have more than 2 comments. And then if you're writing feedback to somebody, you have to go, if there's already 2 comments, you have to go to a student or a classmate that doesn't have, so that everyone's getting equitable responses. One of my, pet peeves, and this again is low tech because you've had some pretty incredible PD over the last 10 days. When you are filming, you should the first step is to make sure your lens is cleaned, because you can't edit a blurry or, greasy fingerprinted video. Well-lit area. I love to film outdoors. I think it's like the best lighting is to make sure that light is on your face so that we can see you clearly. Steady hands. And what I tell students is, as you're holding your phone, or if you're using computer, it's not as challenging. But I said, like, if you pull in your elbows, then it's steady if you don't have a tripod. And of course, if you have a tripod, that's even better. But I'm thinking about like equitable hacks. Getting physically closer to the subject. So if you're zooming in, don't zoom in with your fingers, walk up to the subject so that you're getting the best pixel count, or it's called saturation. Record in quiet places without background noises. So those are like the tips that I give students. Now for you all, okay, this is what I'm going to share with you. And I don't know, so invite link. Please keeping in the VI. All right, join the code, copy. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put this into the chat right now for you. And you can play around with it. I hope that this works. Definitely. I just realized while I was talking, I don't think my screen was shared. So let me show you. And you'll have this as a PDF, but this is the infographic that helps provide language to support our peers in giving constructive feedback. Let me go to our videos. Shamika, are you? Okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Shamika, the Director for STEM and STEAM Education here at the Department of Education. Educator for over 22 years, and Flipgrid is awesome. I do want to say a little bit about my childhood home. Growing up, it was multi-generational. Not sure the materials and how long it was built. I know that like my dad and my uncles helped to build a house. However, we did lose the house to this lady that married my grandfather after my grandmother passed away. So, you know, there's a lot of hurt with that, but there are a lot of fond memories in the house that I was in up until I was 17 years old.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I totally felt that.
That's a nice kickoff to a little more further understanding your lived experience, Dr. Williams. Yeah. And how others will connect with that. Wow.
You know, watching it back, I'm getting teary-eyed.
Wow. Learn something new.
And imagine for students how empowering that would be for them to have that same type of engagement with their peers. Sharing.
It does. It develops a level of empathy and connection. It strengthens the connection of the human experience. Because I mean, I felt very similar, like as you were mentioning, like losing a home to this, but having fond memories is like, I feel like a lot of us can relate to that bittersweet, or also just you have to close that chapter, but keep those memories. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Williams.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Williams.
And yay, STEAM. We have to talk.
So at this time, Ms. Sackey, we're so appreciative for you and your knowledge. I think this was really fun, and we've gained a new tool that we could all use. I appreciate all of the curriculum and instruction directors, as well as our educators who are in the chat right now. And we're going to close up because I know some of our educators are transitioning to their next class. Ms. Sackey, we appreciate you and thanks for being here with us, and as well as you, Ms. Monica Marin from DPNR.
This is from Edutopia, and it's an easy feedback support that you can provide for your students. So if they need the language to provide, you know, constructive feedback, there's this wonderful rubric that's available. And then to conclude, we need to know our built heritage so that we can honor ourselves, like in truth. Like it's to strengthen our understanding of our place and our purpose in this time, in a time where the earth is incredibly stressed and people are grappling to find, you know, their own purpose and meaning, and to maintain quality of living, and to learn from what our ancestors have done through some of the more difficult and atrocious times in human history, gives us strategies and also insight in how to provide support moving forward in a very stressed world, but also beautiful. Like we're educators, we are here, we believe. And thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to overlapping with you